Okay, I think we get started, if that's okay with everybody. First of all, hello. Thanks for joining us this morning. This is going to be our webinar, our first ever Couchcast actually, which we affectionately named Couchcast, given the situation we all find ourselves in now, called Putting Automation at the Heart of Business. So during today's session, we're going to share with you our insights, our experience, our expertise to help you guys plan how best you can utilise the many benefits that automation can bring to your organisations and help you on the way to defining a successful automation strategy. You should have all received your 10-pointer starter kit by now to help you on your respective journeys. But if for any reason you haven't received those, then please by all means drop us an email or a chat on one of our websites, and we'll be sure to get that link sent across to you. So just to sort of set the scene, we didn't really want this to be death by PowerPoint, but I apologise, we do have some slides that we are going to run through. There's not going to be too many, so Carl will be picking up some of these when I hand over to him shortly. And then we've got a Q&A session towards the end, which I'm hoping that you guys get involved with as well. We've received a few questions already as part of the emails that went out, the automated emails that went out with the joining instructions, but there is a option within the webinar tool as well to ask questions as we go forward, so please pop those in as well, and as I say, we'll cover those at the end of the session. So just before we dive in, a couple of introductions. My name's Adam Turner. I'm the Business Development Manager at Spherica, where we provide managed IT services across a number of industries, and we're proud to have amongst our client base quite a few household names, the likes of Avanti West Coast Trains, who we've been working with for many years now, actually under the previous operator of the West Coast franchise, Virgin Trains, as well as McColl's Retail, the Wales Millennium Centre, West Bromwich Building Society, and many, many others. And I think what that breadth of knowledge gives us is a real good level of experience within a number of sectors. But what we also see is, the fact, despite the fact they are varying sectors, some of those I've just mentioned, transport, retail, the arts, financial services, they often still have a lot of similar challenges. So we come across quite a few familiar use cases, and we'll talk about some of those as we go through the presentation shortly. So at Spherica, we spent the last decade or so evolving our services to meet the ever-changing needs of our customers. And back at the start of this year, we relaunched our service proposition, putting even more focus on providing the next generation of automated services. So we think this was a sensible, logical decision, because back at the beginning of 2009, we launched our new digital innovation division called Synaptic, and I'll hand over to Carl, as I say, in a second. But it puts automation really at the heart of our clients' businesses to deliver better ways of working, not just in the IT department, but throughout the entire business. So I guess on that note, I'll hand over to you, Carl. I know you're going to sort of pick up on that sentiment, and we'll speak again soon.
Thanks very much, Adam, and thanks for the introduction. As Adam says, I'm the CIO of our digital innovation division called Synaptic. So to all intents and purposes, Synaptic is a company within a larger company of Spherica. That being said, we also treat Spherica as a customer. So what we mean by that is some of the automations we create enable Spherica to go and deliver IT services in a way that other managed service providers can't or don't. The main benefits being that they can deliver a faster, more efficient service by using automation, so they get repeatability and not have to have so many people doing manual process. The knock-on to that is it's cheaper for their customers, it's cheaper for them to run the service, and the customer experience is better at the end of it. So as I've already touched on, the two businesses kind of go hand in hand. Spherica on the IT and managed service side, Synaptic around automation and also integration of systems. So Synaptic's goal, if you like, is to join systems together to enable automation between multiple systems to deliver whatever it is that needs to happen within that business process. And as it says here, I think we're quite a strong force together. Spherica in the IT space, with us backing them and enabling their way of working, but also Synaptic has the ability to operate outside of IT and look at kind of broader business processes. So Adam's already touched on some of Spherica's customers, but Synaptic have their own customers in their own right that operate outside the IT space. So we've got sort of retail, finance, etc., etc. It was this sort of desire and way of working together that was the reason that we spun off Synaptic as its own thing. We think that the IT managed service space hasn't really changed for about 30 odd years. And by leveraging automation and changing the way that we actually deliver that service with Spherica has enabled them to kind of completely change the way their business and also their pricing model operates. So yeah, that's us, and that's how the two businesses fit together right now. Next slide, please, Suzanne. Thank you. So elephant in the room, I guess. I'm sure we're all sick of sitting at home in our home offices on webinars by now. I know I certainly am. But we think, obviously, the current state of play has forced some businesses to have to change the way they operate. I think this is a great quote. So a lot of organisations are viewing this as a shock to the system that's accelerated everything they've been doing. You know, some businesses are sat there right now, and you might be some of them, thinking things have to change. We've had to change rapidly. We've had to put stuff in very quickly. It's time to sort of reassess how our business works and functions. And we think automation is going to be massive in the next few months as we sort of come out the other end of this. It's not that easy to get from perhaps where you are today to this fully automated, integrated world, and that's kind of what this webinar is all about. So I won't steal our own thunder there. The first thing we'd like to pop up is a little poll to understand what it is that you're most interested in and your main sort of motivation for attending this and looking at automation within your businesses, which should have just popped up now. Just give you a couple of seconds. Are we going to pop the results up straight away, Suzanne? Is that the plan?
Yes, we will. Just waiting for a few more to come in.
Oh.
Get some good interaction.
Intrigued to see what the outcome of this is. Okay, cool.
That's kind of reassuring, really.
Yeah. So I think you can all see the results on the screen now. So we're looking at increasing productivity, business continuity planning, and cutting costs, which is pretty much what we thought. So that's good to hear. Okay, let's move on. So by signing up to this webinar, you should have received the Automation Starter Pack already, and we're not going to really focus on the content of that because you should already have it. And if you've got any questions or want to get in touch about any of that content, please do let us know with the details we provide later. I think in that Automation Starter Pack, there is a link to book a meeting to have a chat. So you can just click that and block out some time in our calendars to have a chat with us if that's something you want to do. So I think this quote from Steve Jobs is really apt for this conversation. So essentially, start with the customer experience and work backwards to put the technology sort of building blocks in place to deliver whatever it is that you need to do as a business. And I think some of the businesses that are struggling at the moment are trying to put technology in place first without really understanding what it is they're trying to achieve with it. They just know they've got to modernize and evolve and aren't really focused on, well, what do I need it to actually deliver at the far end. So the Automation Starter Pack pretty much focuses on looking at where you want to get to as a business, working backwards to see what tech can enable you to do that and what you need to do in terms of change to make that happen. I would say it's as simple as that. I know it isn't as simple as that. It's a very complex beast. But we'll dive into that in a bit more detail later on. So just really high level. Yeah, this is one of the things we wanted to talk about. We know that in the world of work, it's not always easy to say, well, I've got this great idea. I'm going to deploy all these platforms. I'm going to integrate them all. I'm going to automate between them. And the business sort of sits there and goes, okay, brilliant, let's do it. We know that that's not the case. There's lots of people involved. There's IT departments. There's people worried about their jobs. There's all sorts of things at play here. And it's something we've come across many times. And often we find that businesses who haven't evolved, there's usually a reason, whether it's just cost or personnel's way of thinking or the business seeing as IT as a cost and just the people who look after computers as opposed to the people who kind of run that machine that runs the business. So a bit of helpful advice we've got here from our own experience. So start with a proof of value. Don't try and reinvent the world overnight because that's hard. Start with something small. Implement change champions. So pick a process that adds value, put it in, and then share the success of it. And we've got a customer in particular whose IT team were very, very wary of us. They almost kind of kicked us out of the business because they were very scared about all this automation, this new way of working. And actually, this is exactly what we did. We did a very small process that was massive value for them. And now that same IT team, who were very awkward to work with, I should say, are now shouting from the rooftops about how brilliant this is. And they've almost become our change champions. They're the people driving it in the business for us. So I think demonstrating that value and doing that proof of value is really key. Next slide, please. Wanted to kind of, what we're doing is, thank you. We wanted to kind of address what RPA is all about. I hear a lot of people talking about automation is RPA, and you'd be right. But we wanted to kind of explain what the difference between RPA, which stands for Robotic Process Automation, it's been around for quite a while, and Intelligent Automation. Synaptic can do both and have done projects with both. The key differences here is RPA, and I explained this to our marketing team as RPA is a piece of software that looks at a screen and it's looking for the word cat. And if the word cat doesn't appear on the screen, it just sits there, it doesn't do anything. Whereas intelligent automation is integrated at grassroots. It doesn't need to look at a physical screen, and it's kind of grabbing data at the grassroots foundation and can intelligently decide what to do with it. Whereas RPA will only do exactly what you've told it to do. So the main differences between these two pieces of technology: intelligent automation is easier to integrate with, it's cleverer, that's why it's intelligent, and it enables you to do more. Whereas RPA, we tend to use when we have very old systems, you know, stuff that's built on mainframes or green screen stuff, whereby there's no API functionality, and it's really hard to integrate with because it's 20 plus years old. That's not to say it can't be done with RPA, it's just more process intensive and very manual to get that automation going. And if anything changes at all, you've kind of got to write everything again in RPA, whereas on the intelligent side, you can pretty much swap out that system, put a new one in, and your process remains the same. So you can swap systems out far easier with intelligent automation than you can with RPA. Thank you very much. So we're going to talk very broadly about what we consider to be the automated future. So we think it's really interesting because it enables you as IT people or technology teams or whatever you are within your businesses to essentially become architects and to kind of build that machine that runs your business. So you can see there, we think it increases agility. It enables you to do things faster. Massive one for us as a business that we're quite passionate about. It improves customer experience. If you can link data together between systems, you know everything there is to know for whatever that customer, either internally or externally, is asking you about. So it means you can do stuff faster. Reduces risk of human error. This is very relevant in the IT space, where previously it would rely on a person pressing buttons to, you know, create a user account, etc. Whereas with automation, the process is repeatable. So if it's wrong, you fix it once and it's correct from that point forward. Whereas if you've got 25 people, chances are there's probably 25 different ways they'll find of achieving whatever it is they need to do. So we've got strategies within some businesses whereby, yeah, there is I do apologise. My father-in-law has very helpfully come and started taking chunks out of my garden during a webinar. He will stop shortly.
Well, the perils of working from home.
I know, it's killing me. I think he stops now. Yeah, good. Enables better data insights, improves security because you don't need human access into those systems. You can just use API integration. Allows you to transform collaboration. So for instance, you could do workflows that says, you know, I've got a problem with this. So the first person to ping is that guy over there. And if that doesn't work, or if they're unavailable, ping that person over there. It just allows you to pull everything in. Give me 1 second.
I don't think he's gone very far.
We're back. And it allows you to free up your time primarily. So instead of having to do all this stuff, you can get the automation to do it for you and spend more time on what makes you you and why you're employed in that business. You know, nobody became a whatever to sit and copy and paste data between spreadsheets, etc. The elephant in the room with our funky little emoji there is some people think automation is purely to get rid of staff, it's to cut cost. And to be honest, you could use automation to do that. I'm not gonna lie, that is a possibility. What we think the best thing to do is automate the tasks that add the most value, as we've already discussed, and then redeploy those people in support of your business, whatever that may be. So in the IT space, one of the things we've seen is by automating mundane tasks, it frees up the IT team to go and do user workshops, to go and show them, the new version of Outlook, etc., etc. But if a business's goal is purely to cut cost and all someone's job is copying data from A to B to C, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that jobs won't be at risk, but we would prefer that they reskill. And another strategy we've used very successfully is by deploying automation, then providing training to those people who used to just move data from A to B, enabling them to create their own automation workflows and let them become the automation people if they've got the right mindset to go away and do that. So there's tons of options. I'm going to hand over to Adam now. He's going to talk about use case.
Cool, thank you. So yeah, I mentioned very briefly in my opening gambit that we've got so many use cases from so many different vertical markets, so many industries. So what I've done here, just literally popped a photo bomb together of all sorts of different examples. The opportunities literally are endless. This is really just to give you a bit of a feel for the art of the possible here. I think as Carl has pretty much covered off in some of the slides that he just put together, our advice is always to start small. Don't think that we're going to automate the entire industry, the entire business on day one, because that's just unrealistic. And again, using those change champions as a good example. Let's pick an area, let's prove the concept, let's prove that value, and we can start to grow and evolve it from there. And what we do find, and Carl just talked about the elephant in the room, we do find there is a little bit of resistance, but there's actually an opportunity cost here, a massive one. So if we got people that are literally just punching numbers into a spreadsheet, and that's the things that they've always done and always way it has been done, if we can use automation to take some of that pain away, that frees them up to go and do something that has more value to the business, and probably to themselves as well. They probably get a better sense of self-worth by adding more value to what the business is looking to achieve in those business operations. So by all means, don't take this as an exhaustive list. This is just to give you a feel for some of the use cases that we've already delivered into some of our clients. But what we always say, as I say, start small and let's grow out from there. So I think this is the last slide actually before we get into the Q&A. So customer experience, taking this quote from Gartner, we believe that to be successful, you need to focus on the customer experience to remain relevant and also competitive. It is going to be a strange world when we come out on the other side of this. And I think the industries and the organizations that survive and thrive are going to be the ones that really deliver a great experience to the customers. And that's both internally and externally. External customers, the guys that give us the cash, but also our internal customers. From an IT background, that's often colleagues. We need to give a great experience to our end users, both when they join the organisation, but also when they're employed by us as well. Because nobody wants to be going to IT and ask them for various new tools, new software platforms, etc., and get a real pushback. So if we can deliver a great experience to our customers and to our staff, then they can go and deliver that experience to the end users as well. So I've got a good example here that I know Cole and the guys at Synaptic have been working on with his very nice little emoji there, talking about sentiment. So I don't know if you just want to add a few words around that, Carl.
Yeah, sure. So one of the things we've been working on literally this week is putting sentiment analysis into a customer service tool. So for those of you who don't know, ordinarily, whatever you do, ticket or a support request comes in, I need a thing, or I want a thing, or a thing is broken. It then, based on which team would go away and do that, goes into another queue, and there's certain SLAs around all of that. And one of the things we've been working on is analysing that data coming in, whether it be an email or a phone call or whatever, to understand is the user happy, unhappy, frustrated, etc., etc., and then dynamically bumping that up the queue as required. So based on who you are, how you're feeling, all the rest of it, defines the order that a ticket is dealt with. the point being that if someone's absolutely livid that their computer's not working, for argument's sake, they end up near the top of the queue, as opposed to, well, sorry, your request's only just come in. I know you can't do any work right now, but our SLA says we don't deal with that for another 3 weeks, so you'll have to wait, type thing. And that has been enabled by hooking together 4 systems to make that happen. And in a normal world, without integration and automation, that would be very, very difficult to achieve.
Great. Can you tell us what the sentiment of your father-in-law is at the moment?
I don't know, really. He seemed quite shocked as I stuck my head out the window and went, can you stop that? He started soaring now, so I don't know if you can hear that.
So thanks for that. Thanks everyone for listening. We've had a few questions that have come in, so I guess without further ado, we've got our contacts on there anyway. So if there are any questions that do pop into your mind after the session, after you've had a good look through the starter packs that we've shared with you, then by all means we're not going anywhere. But I'll just kick off and start running through some of these. I'll shout them out, Carl, and I'll put you in the spotlight if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
If I can figure out how to scroll to the top of this. So, okay, I've got one here. Given the rate of change in the industry, how should a client deal with or think about updating? The desire to avoid continual redundancy of capital investment is high.
Sure. So again, we kind of touched on it with the Steve Jobs quote. Think about what it is that's causing you pain at the moment. If you don't know what that is, go and ask people. Go and speak to your heads of department, or even, people who are quite vocal about whatever it is that's wrong. Understand what that is, try and get to the grassroots of what's causing that, and then develop a process, both in terms of business process, so mapping out how are you doing it today, look at what needs changing from a tech perspective, if anything, and then start to integrate that and pull it together to enable you to fix it, essentially. It doesn't have to cost the earth, and obviously you're all from different industries, you all do different things. You know what adds value to your company, so if it's going to cost £1 million and only deliver a couple of grand's benefit, you'd never do it, type thing. So it doesn't necessarily have to cost the earth, and it could just be a simple internal process change to fix whatever it is that you're struggling with. But if you want to talk specifics, give us a shout, type thing.
Cool. I think most of the questions covered in the chat, so let me just run through 1 or 2 of these that I've just spotted. So given the rate of change in the industry, how should a client deal with...
I think that's the same question, Adam.
Yeah, it is. Sorry, we wrote someone. So
I think Suzanne's curating these into the Q&A section.
Okay. Yeah, they're coming from all angles. So I've got here, starting with improving customer experience. Can you give some examples of easy wins?
Again, it depends what you do, depends what your customer is and all the rest of it.
Yeah, I think a good example of that is onboarding. Onboarding customers, sometimes it can be frustrating, I think, when you start dealing with new organizations from a B2B perspective. I don't know what your industry is, but just endless form filling, it can be quite frustrating. I know, Carl, you always talk about your experience when you go and check into hotels, and I don't know if you want to pick up on that.
Yeah, sure. So one of my many frustrations is when I book a hotel, as I do, or used to do often when I was allowed out the house, it would always frustrate me that I've booked it on whatever, booking.com for argument's sake. I turn up to the hotel and the first thing they do is slap a form in front of me and say, can you fill this in with details like name, address, phone number, blah, blah, blah. And I always find it mental that booking.com has this data, and it might be GDPR based, I don't know, but why can't that data be provided with my booking, so that when I check in, my time from, hi, I'd like to check in, to having a shower is 10 minutes faster and makes me a happy customer. And that's a really basic example, but I'm sure you can all think of times within a business where you've sat there thinking, the business knows this, why am I telling them again? And that's one of the things we've tried to incorporate with the Spherica services. Why should someone have to ring IT and tell them that their computer's broken? Why don't IT already know that? Why don't IT know who I am, etc., etc.? So I think there's tons you can do around pulling data together.
I think same with onboarding your own staff as well. The amount of emails and forms that you have to fill out when you start in a new organisation. So that whole onboarding and offboarding process is quite a good example as well of all these details about me anyway from my CV, and so there's quite a few good examples I'm sure we can come up with. Again, be good to sort of know a little bit more about your industry and your business, because we've answered very much B2B answers. It may be that you're in a B2C market. So again, happy to pick that up after the session. So I've got a slightly negative question for you here, Carl. So sadly, we do need to cut costs to survive. Are there processes you recommend starting with that have the most immediate impact? Do you have any suggestions?
Again, I'm going to caveat this by saying I don't know, depends what business you're in. I think joiners process is a big one. We're finding we're getting a lot of work at the moment to automate when someone joins a business, but also run the process in reverse when they leave. And we're finding that often, especially in this world of SaaS deployments, Office 365, etc., there is several £100,000 sat in licensing costs for people who have left the business. And again, if you've got 100 disparate SaaS applications across your company, you need to make sure you're reclaiming those when somebody leaves the business. And we've been surprised ourselves actually of how much money is being wasted there. Yeah, it's hard to say without knowing what you do, really.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've just spotted another question that's coming in the question, but I think it kind of follows on from what you were just saying. So as a business solution consultant, I think a great easy win is reviewing current processes and systems and ensuring that the tool solutions are being optimized. Well, that's pretty much exactly what you're just saying on the software license costs that are sort of sitting in an area here not being optimized.
Just on the back of that, something else I'd like to say. So you're absolutely right, Isabel. I think you said that. When you start to look at automation and integration, it becomes key to how you select your tools. So we work with a lot of bigger businesses who go through this kind of RFP process, and it's kind of stuck in the past whereby they're looking at server deployments on site, etc., etc. Start grading the platforms or solutions you're going to pick by how easily can I automate with it. So you might have this fantastic system which has no integration points whatsoever, and then suddenly you've built another silo. And then everything in and out of that system's got to be manual. So start putting it at the forefront of your selection processes is something I would say. It's getting better that the sort of API ecosystem is really kicking off in a big way now. And I think what you choose to buy today could cause you some massive problems in the next couple of years if you select it without integration in mind. It is a piece of advice I would give every business at the moment.
Okay, I've got another one for you on budgets. So what type of budget are we looking at for automation HR projects?
Again, it depends on the size of your company and how big you want to go with the HR automation. I think the best example we can give you is at Virgin Trains, now Avanti West Coast. We built automations for their joiners and leavers process. So that was from HR saying person starts to their first day in effect. So that was all their user accounts, their access, ordering them a computer, getting a phone sorted, and all the steps in between to make that happen. I think that for us was something like a 2-week project, start to finish. So in terms of, Virgin was slightly different because they already had very good, rich tools and platforms in place. And I say we just joined it all together. But we like to operate in kind of sprints. So most of our projects don't run for more than about 10 days, I would say. But it depends on the scale of your business and how much you want to kind of integrate and pull into that process. But it's not crazy amounts of money, I would say.
Cool. Where typically, this is a nice one for you, where typically is human contact input better in business, i.e. can help when looking at retraining?
I think this is a really broad answer, but it's allow people to do what people are good at. So the empathy stuff, the relationship building, often the customer service, the ability to call someone up and say hi, or even having, one of the things I hate is when you ring a company and you have to press a button for sales and then it goes somewhere else and you press another button. It would be great if I could just ring it and it goes, hi Carl, type thing. It's all that sort of stuff really. And again, it depends on what you do as a company and what you think would add the most value. But to me, it always makes sense to sort of hire clever people and let them do what they're good at and don't bog them down in admin process. And too often, especially in engineering, they do get bogged down in admin process. And ultimately, I think that's a waste of money because there's automation that could be doing that while the engineers are out doing the hard, difficult things. And I think that applies to any industry, really.
Okay, got a few more for you. Conscious of time. So as a long-established legal firm, we're very reliant on paper. How do we automate when we haven't even gone fully digital yet?
I think it's like we've already kind of discussed. So I think solicitors or legal firms are a really good example. Having recently purchased a house, I feel your pain. I've never seen so much paper in a company, I don't think. So that's got to change. And I guess legal firms are probably struggling a little bit at the moment with lots of paper being locked in offices on people's desks. So again, it goes back to what we were talking about before. You need to start looking at what is your process today. And in a legal paper-based firm, there's probably quite a lot of process, even if it's not written down. Look at how that works. Look at what platforms we can put in to kind of put our things into. So it's not paper, it's about putting data between, you know, a billing system, a case system, a, you know, inbound, whatever, email system or whatever. Selecting those platforms and then making sure you can automate between them. So I think step one is identify the process. Step two is look at the platforms you need to put in to make that happen. And even if you manually move stuff between platforms initially, and then towards the end of that, link them together and look at what you can automate and almost pick it by use case. So we're going to go after just billing for now. So we're going to automate from when a solicitor spends an hour on this case, it automatically updates the customer's record and spits out an invoice at the end of the month, and just build, you know. Think of IT almost like Lego, just grab some blocks and then what can you make out of it? I'm going to coin that. I think we should trademark that. IT Lego. Probably going to get sued for saying that now.
Cool. I've got a nice one here for you. You'll like this one. We have a tailor-made system that's unique to our industry. Can you work with bespoke systems?
Yes, absolutely. So we have a customer who's using a system that's actually older than I am. I think it's about 30-something years old. And yeah, we absolutely can. So we've talked about APIs a lot on this call, but it's not just about APIs. You know, we can automate off a text message. We can automate off email. We can automate by screen scraping using RPA if we need to. We also have the ability to reach into on-premise systems. So if you've got a mainframe or a data center running your own hosted custom stuff, we can reach into that and connect it to cloud if you'll let us. So in very simple terms, obviously it matters what your tailor-made system is, but I reckon there's probably a way we can integrate with it somehow if needs be.
Cool. I've got a neat segue here though. So you just mentioned cloud, if that allows. So another one here. Since the workforce went remote, I'm worried about cybersecurity. I'm more worried about cybersecurity than ever before. Mm-hmm. How can automation help?
In many ways. This is good. I feel like this is. So obviously cybersecurity is multifaceted. There's tons of parts to it. I think the stuff you can do in the background, so using tools like your Rapid7s of the world that do that threat analytics piece, not only can you get them to do the threat analytics, have automations off the back of it to get away from that threat, whatever that is. So it could be, you know, Chrome's out of date, or looks like somebody's downloading the entire customer directory or whatever. So there's that side of stuff. Sort of threat detection, and then automating the actions off the back of that. And that could be as simple as emailing someone's boss saying, "Hi Carl, it looks like Adam's downloading all of our customer data. Should he be doing this?" No, he shouldn't. And then automating Adam's access being completely revoked throughout the system. But I think what you're actually getting at is more so around, well, I've got all these people out there and I'm really worried about cyber stuff. So again, look at what platforms you've got in play. Make sure that the rules are relevant. I mean, you know, we're using Zoom right now, and it's been in the press quite recently for having dodgy security, if you like. So know what you're using, know what rules and stuff you need to apply to that platform to ensure it's safe against your business's, you know, rules. And then again, just leverage the power of those platforms to keep you safe. And I know that's a really woolly answer, but it's stuff like using Microsoft Intune to make sure our documents are locked, and we've got policy in place to ensure that people can't just download everything from OneDrive on their phone and, you know, copy it to Dropbox, etc. Box Shield is another great example of that kind of technology. But the chances are you've got stuff in your business that enables you to ensure that you're secure. It's just a case of knowing what's possible in those relevant platforms and then implementing that security policy. And because we're an automation company, I have to say this, but automate off the back of it for remedial actions into, you know, when something's not right.
Cool. I'm going to fire through these as I'm really mindful of time now. Given that cash flow will be an issue for most businesses post-COVID, what is the typical payback on projects?
I don't think we have a typical payback on projects, Adam. I don't know what you think.
I think, yeah, probably Wooly answer, but I think it varies. We'd like to think it's really fast, but I think it does vary on what the particular project, what value that project has to the particular business.
I mean, we've got some customers right now where they've literally brought Synaptic in and said, we need to save money, work with the IT team, understand what that is and make it happen. So we've got specific examples for that particular business. But yeah, it depends. But people wouldn't automate stuff if it was costing them money, unless it was a conscious decision, you know, we're going to spend this money to make the customer experience better or whatever.
I think that does come back to building the business case. What is the return on investment? Is it worth spending X if we're only going to get you know, this figure back? So
I think it's also I think it's also kind of difficult to put a cost on that. So you've got the kind of upfront costs of, well, we've automated this and it saved Y, but then also it's going forward. So if you put this intelligent automation in and you want to rip out that platform and put a new one in, you've probably saved yourself a small fortune in implementation fees because your workflow process could stay the same over here, and it's just the platform where that data comes in from that's new. So again, your time to value of that new platform coming in and doing stuff is less. So it's also kind of hard to measure in terms of long term. But yeah, I mean, what's the point in doing it if it's not going to save you money? Why would you do it?
Okay. We're down to the last one at the moment, so if there's any more that you want to post in, please do so whilst we're answering this one. Under the current climate, how do you get clients with bespoke legacy systems to review current solutions, which in the long term would be more cost effective?
I'm not really sure I fully understand the question. How do you get the clients with bespoke legacy systems to review the current solutions, which are long term? I think talk to them. I know that sounds really stupid. We're working with a massive customer at the moment. He integrates with about, I think, 40 other businesses. So they get data from 40 customers or people that they work with. They pull that into their system, and they've actually got 40 different bits of kit to talk to. But then once it comes into their business, it's kind of got to be standardized, crunched, and then fired out actually to other businesses as well. So I think the main thing is talk to them. You know, some businesses will be really receptive to this and say, yeah, let's make it great. Let's work together and all the rest of it. And other businesses will say, no, sorry, that's what you get. But that's not to say that you can't make it clever once it hits you, which is what we're seeing with this particular customer. Half of their integrations have been changed on the inbound side so that they can do clever stuff with it. And half of them haven't, because they've said, well, we don't really care. You're a small company, deal with it. But once that hits your kind of internal perimeter, then it becomes yours, and you can transform it and do whatever you need to do with it to achieve whatever outcome there is.
Cool.
I'm sorry, I'm just going off on tangent now. And I think it's going to be really interesting as that customer evolves, because the guys that were on board with them, the girls that allowed them to do this automation, are no doubt going to become preferred than the half that didn't. So I think the half that did will eventually rub off on the half that didn't, or they'll eventually become irrelevant. That's just my take anyway.
Okay, we've got probably a couple of minutes. There's one more just popped in. What would you say our number one automation strategy priority should be?
Again, depends where you are. If you've got mature systems and you can integrate with them, great. I think number one priority should be deliver that customer experience, whether that's internal or external, and link the stuff together you need to do to achieve that. But if you're right at the beginning and you haven't got that, I think your number one priority should be, what do you want to achieve? Simple as that.
Start on that roadmap, start on the journey.
Yeah. And actually, it sounds really hard, but once you kind of start mapping stuff out and thinking about it and talking to the business, it actually gets quite easy, because the chances are there's someone in your business sat there right now going, I know what we need to do. You've just got to find them.
Okay, so we literally have, well, about 3 minutes or so left. So I'll just leave you for another minute or so, just in case there's anything that pops into your mind before we leave you to the rest of your day. I guess just the sort of final wash up, just in case anything doesn't come in. Thanks everyone for your time this morning. It's greatly appreciated, but as I've said a couple of times, we're not disappearing anywhere. The contacts I know are on the screen at the moment. So if there's anything that does pop into your mind, if there's any more details around some of the questions, sometimes it's quite difficult to answer some of these questions as a monologue rather than a dialogue. So we're more than happy to book some sessions. I think we've got a link actually that will go out so you can book some time in my diary, Carl's diary, so we can have a more detailed chat and maybe bring some of these conversations to life when we know a little bit more about your industry, your environments, etc.
Thank you very much, Adam.
Thank you.